Patrick, tell us about this concept that you had about fatherhood. Start off with that. That was a good idea. Let's hear it.
Yeah, sure. I was gifted a parenting book from a relative for the Christmas or the holidays, and had some good insights on how to raise your children, how to deal with some issues, and it got me thinking. Uh, for professional life, we do professional development. For athletic stuff, we train, we work out. We practice so that we can become better. Whatever we're working towards, and I feel like a lot of us, at least in my experience, and my own parent journey, there's not a lot of specific dedicated time to practice. We're just sort of thrown into it, like, hey, here's your kid, you know go home and figure it out. And I'm wondering, or I was asking you, is there some sort of benefit to having some sort of structured, here's what we're working on, here are the five things you're going to work on as a parent, as a dad,
Yeah.
father, whatever, to sort of get better empirically at parenting, and what kind of support structure could we create around that, and see where it goes. So it's kind of my random thought I had.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. And this is pretty raw that we're discussing this. We haven't discussed it. We just texted about it a little bit. And I love the idea as well. I'm currently getting I'm in the field of executive coaching. And I have an executive coach and I'm learning how to be a coach. And um, people need coaches. And I'm not trying to make a plug for my own self, but there's a lot of things that are really critical to be good at, and I mean the most important thing is being a parent. And yeah, it's pretty ironic, like many leaders in business, when they first get into leadership or management, there's not really a course for them. Most of them don't have a course, and then they're expected to just deal with this responsibility, and a lot of them are really bad. Some studies show like two-thirds of or like three-quarters of leaders are really ineffective or incompetent. Um, so yeah, it makes sense. They're not getting training in the corporate sphere. We're definitely not getting training as parents, and there's a lot of stuff that we kind of on the fly have to break and build. So let's pull this thread a little bit, man. I mean, what are some things like when you think of stuff that you wanted training on? Like, what are some things that come to mind, like for being a parent?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's mostly day to day life, day to day frustrations. Like, why do I get extremely frustrated at my kid dumping out a bowl of dinner every single night? Like, it's expected at this point. Like, he's going to dump it. Why do I? Why do I freak the fuck out? Are we allowed to curse on this thing? I don't know if we're
I
allowed to
don't
do it, but
care.
like, why do I get so frustrated when there's spaghetti thrown against the wall, and then crying for 5 minutes every single night? It's like, hey man, if your dog whined every day before you let him out, you'd probably be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is just a normal part of like what my dog is trying to tell me he needs something, and I would just become accustomed to it. But for
Yeah.
me, there's these moments where I'm just like eternally frustrated, and maybe I could work on being better at that. And how do I approach that? Like, I don't have any tool
Yeah.
frameworks to do that.
Yeah, I mean that stuff like that. What comes to mind there is like emotional regulation, and that's totally something that I'm working on too. Like there is a point, like if I concentrate on being patient, like my kid right now outside of this room here is freaking out about having to go pee pee on the potty, like for no reason. He's done it every single day, multiple times a day, and he's freaking out because mom's there. So like if I go out there with patience in mind, I can calmly talk to him and get through it and get through it. But if I don't, if I'm just like, rah, I'm gonna tear into it, then I might get two or three instances of him saying, no, I don't want to sit down and go pee pee. Um, you know, and then I'll lose it eventually. And obviously I think it goes without saying we're not talking about like violence or anything like that, but just like, dude, what's going on? Like we're not keeping our composure. So yeah, probably emotional regulation is is a part of the curriculum if we're building something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. It's like a there's daily triggers or daily occurrences of things that
Yeah.
kids do that I would like to become better at,
Yeah.
dealing with. And it's all, minor stuff. And, like a couple tactics. My buddy was like, hey, man, just think to yourself before you react, is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is this going to matter in 10 minutes? If
Sure.
the answer is no, then you can chill out. But having the pause before the reaction,
Yeah.
to be able to like have that thought, like that's a muscle that you've got to build up. And that's why I started that
Yeah.
initial text thread about this idea with you, is like, hey, how many hours a day or how many hours a week are you working out? Because I feel like I'm working out 0 hours in terms of parenting, right? I'm
I
just
feel you.
I'm going to the gym without knowing like what the hell I'm doing, essentially.
Yeah.
That so
Well, I think what comes of that, just like my brain goes to like systematizing it, like listing out all of the ways, like all of the areas that you feel like you're not doing very well in. And like I know you, man, like you're you're more hard on yourself than other people in the population are, right? And so like there's probably a good long list, and then there, you can siphon through that list to get to like, all right, these are the actual like truly impactful pieces. Um, and then you've got a good list of from there, you would have a good list of like okay, well, what would we want to attack? Like I've got small pecs or whatever, so I would do these three exercises to work on it if we're using the working out analogy, so I know like emotional regulation by the way, can you hear what's happening?
yeah, but that pet comment felt a little targeted. I appreciate if you didn't target that at me.
No, that's not, there's a reason this is lower, okay? The camera's down for a reason. Yeah, I mean, I think there's milestones too. I mean, come to think of it, I think there's milestones as well. Like, hey, like when, this is what you should do when your kid is a total infant. Like, this is how you can perform best, right? But then when your kid's like one, the whole landscape changes. I mean, for you, like I've only got one child, but like this is how you can handle best being a dad, or some things you need to expect, like going from one to two, like that kind of stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, those things would be great. I mean, like, and I think where I think of this, where I think of like what we're doing here, and where this is going to go is like, if we have 100 people, interviewing, if we ended up interviewing 100 people here in Jax, about being a father, eventually we can have some type of like system or curriculum or something like that to put together to be like, yeah, like when we bring these things up, these things are these are the way that people have handled them. So, okay, so you said like, why do I freak out about stuff? Like, what are some other things that you would want to work on? And I can share it too. I just want to give you the floor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm like thinking just running through the day, like in moments. So when we leave the house in the morning, like getting everybody ready to go, how to make those run smoothly, how to not feel internal stress to get everybody ready and out the door, and
Hmm.
how not to be short when, you know, my kid is just not putting his clothes on, not wanting to go, not wanting to get ready. I'm like, dude, we got like 4 minutes and
Yeah.
we got it because I got a meeting I got to be back for, right? And how to have the control. You're not like, put your damn clothes on and let's get in the car, like,
Yeah.
um, those are, it's more just about like managing the perceived stress because it's not, I don't guess it's not really stressful, but it's like, you're
Mhm.
just managing the internal stressors.
Yeah, I feel you. I think like in those moments, something that's been popping up for me, because I get pretty impatient with my kid, and sometimes I'm like, I will hear it's the old trope, like you hear your dad come out or you hear your mom come out when you're doing this. And what's that?
Oh, I said I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something I try to think about, like I do try to remember, like, okay, I didn't like it when my dad was super, super impatient, and do it now, do it faster. And I do try to think of that when I'm rushing my son, of like, are we really in a hurry here? My wife is very punctual. She gets anxious when she's not on time. And
Yeah.
so, there is always that kind of like added pressure. But when I'm pushing him to be like, come on, man, hurry up. Like I do try to consider like, is it worth it? Um, and that's the thing with like behavioral change is it has to be small and incremental. It has to be like a tiny little thing that you do slightly better, and you try it for a couple months and you do really bad at it, but then in a year, like it's actually a lot better.
Yeah.
It helps to have like a partner there to kind of tell you you are being more patient. Like my wife was like that with my emotional volatility because I just get mad about stuff and not control my stress. And I've been working on it for a long time, and she's like, "Yeah, you have gotten better. Like the bad times are still not good; they're still bad, but at the same time, it's not like it was when we first had our son, and things were, you didn't know how to be a dad at that point."
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
a couple things come to mind. One, your kids are going to display your faults back to you. If there's things that you're saying that you don't like that you say, you're going to hear that back from your kid sooner or later.
yeah,
An example, like I tell my son, like, "Hey man, we already told you that you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you need to not do this." And there's probably a better way to go about that. But I hear him, "I told you. I already told you. You can't do that." I'm like, "Oh man," I'm just like hearing, like it's a reflection.
yeah,
Um, I don't know if you watched Landman, but in season two,
yeah.
there's a scene where where Billy Bob Thornton is telling his son, he's like, "Hey, however you treat your son, that is exactly how he's going to treat his son. And
Mm,
if it's bad, it's really really hard cycle to break." He's like, "So be
yeah.
very careful how you interact and how you treat." And he says that because he basically ran away from being a father because he didn't want to carry those things into his son's life, essentially.
Dude, I feel that, dude. I know you got more, but just to reflect on that, like my dad could like turn off the emotions really quick for me. And there was this like he would talk about doing it with other people who had wronged him. And then so I grew up with this like, man, I've wronged my dad because he just like click turned it off on me. And I can find that I'm doing that with my son where I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. And then I'll just like leave. And that sucks, dude. That's like I mean, you just gotta call that shit out. Like that's not good. Like so last argument my wife and I had, I was like, look, like she and I were both extroverted, we're both pretty dominant people. Her and I engaging each other, like when we're in an argument and fighting, it doesn't work because we just interrupt each other and all that, and it just is bad. So like it is good for me to withdraw, but I have to like to control my volatility. I can feel when it gets to a certain point, and I call it the trap door, and I just institute the trap door and I say, I need to get out of here. But I have to, the additional thing that I learned from this past argument was I need to get out of here for 3 minutes, and then I'll actually come in this room in this office and I'll like pray. And um I've done that a few times. More times I have just come in here and started going back to work and checking my emails and working because I feel valuable there.
Mhm.
But yeah, sometimes I will come in and pray and figure it out, and then I'll be able to go back out there and be like, okay, now that things are cool and I'm cool, we can try to do this. So that's been something that like has been a repurposing of the let me turn off my emotions and leave the situation. Um, but like repurposing it for good rather than like let me just turn off my emotions and leave the situation because I can't handle it or because I say I don't care anymore or whatever.